Oh my goodness, the amount of craziness since we spoke last week in boxing is unreal. Let me get to this one first, because I want your opinion on this. We saw last week the news came out with Dana and Zuffa Boxing and the big acquisition, and everybody was like, "How's Eddie Hearn going to respond to this?" And Eddie said, "It's no problem. That's no problem. I mean, what I'm going to do is I have this management company, and I'm going to go and sign the UFC heavyweight champion who's out with an injury right now, sign him to a management deal." And that's right. Eddie Hearn has signed Tom Aspinall, UFC heavyweight champion. This is going back and forth. How do you see this whole thing playing out with Dana? What happened here that you know of? Fill us in, Steve.
Well, it's a real playground. My dad's bigger than your dad's stuff, isn't it? Which I actually really find really funny. The talent acquisition. I don't know if we knew. I didn't know about this talent acquisition company for Matchroom. I wasn't sure about. I didn't know. I didn't know if he just created it for Tom Aspinall alone. Do you know anything about this?
And they're saying that it was in the works longer, like before Zuffa Boxing started. That Eddie was gonna do this. Which, I mean, we can give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that it actually was something that was going to happen before Zuffa Boxing came out, because at the end of the day, you need to have something more than snooker and darts, do you not, in the family portfolio? I mean, why not? Management, get out of the sports stuff, the high stress track that is darts.
Listen, darts is really big here at the moment. It's like a wrestling event. And please do not describe, don't call snooker a venerable game. Do not call it snooker, because it sounds like Jimmy Snooker, Superfly Snooker. He created it.
Well, that's what it sounds like. That's how exciting the game is. You're like, hey, we're not even going to bother we can't even find extra balls. We just have a bunch of red ones here. Does it even have pockets?
It has pockets, and there are different coloured balls. So shut it. I do remember a commentator saying, for those people who are watching in black and white, because it's been around that long, and people didn't have colour TVs until the 70s in this country, quite a lot of them. Commentators saying, and for those who are watching in black and white, the green is the ball behind the black.
I mean, it only makes sense. It only makes sense. And speaking of hands and pockets, it looks like Eddie Hearn's got his now in Tom Aspinall's pockets. Now, here's the biggest thing that it does, though, is now Eddie Hearn has access to the information that UFC has to be able to give him for his client.
He does. Right? Yeah. And it also forces UFC to work with him.
Of course. So, that's not a problem. They've done this before. Like Dana has already said, they've done this before. Tito Ortiz used to manage people, and they managed to get it done. And we know about the war between Dana and Tito Ortiz. Like, there's a ton of managers out there for a lot of these guys that the UFC will work with. And quite frankly, Dana doesn't do any of that stuff anymore, to his own admission. That's a Hunter Campbell. That is somebody else who does all of that stuff, because Dana's got bigger fish to fry right now. He's working on some other stuff in the back end, trying to get the Zuffa Boxing thing off the ground.
Yeah. And the thing is that it sort of smacks of, well, it's a bit of a laugh, isn't it? It's a bit of a game. I feel sorry for both Conor Benn, not very sorry, but I feel sorry for Conor Benn and Tom Aspinall here, because they're pawns in this game, aren't they? So, it's a $15 million pawn for Conor Benn, but he is fighting Regis Prograis. And then you've got Tom Aspinall, who won't be competing for quite some time, it seems. I don't know, but he's got to get the eyes right. And I don't quite know what work they can do for him, but he wants to try and do things outside of, get his brand up, which I can understand. But it is as if both Eddie and Dana are saying, mine's bigger than yours, and I've got the biggest swinging dick in combat sports.
Yeah, here's the thing. Tom has said that he wants to do some boxing. I don't necessarily know that his hands hold up the same in boxing as they do in MMA, especially at heavyweight. That's a different ball game. But what I do think is this gives him the opportunity to try, because I think at the end of the day, if you can't come to some kind of agreement, you let him out of his contract. And if they let him out of his contract, then Eddie is going to look at this like a huge win. Not only did I came in there with the greatest of expectations and we were going to get this stuff done, and they're now, the UFC has just announced the card for the White House, the America 250 rah fist fights in the front yard card. That's just what we're going to be calling it, is the fist fights in the front yard card. They've said it, and on that card is a interim championship for the heavyweight title that they've said between Cyril Gane and Alex Pereira, which is kind of funny. Side note, because Cyril Gane, if I'm not mistaken, was the guy that fought John Jones and lost that for a interim heavyweight championship as well. So maybe third time's a charm for him. But if that fight happens, then you look at it, Tom Aspinall has to fight the winner of that. If that negotiations don't happen properly, that's going to be a huge win for Eddie. And then he takes Tom Aspinall over to boxing, and Tom gets knocked out by, a heavyweight in boxing.
Yeah, or he goes the bare knuckle fight route.
That would be what, could you imagine? Because we don't see any of that. You don't see Eddie representing, you don't see any of these guys representing anybody in bare knuckle. And if this is truly a management and talent company, would it not open up for him to be able to go and do negotiations for any kind of combat sport that he wants to?
Yes, absolutely. You could have crossover. You could have bare knuckle snooker, where somebody's got the bare knuckles and the other one's got a snooker cue, and they smack each other over the head with it. But I think that bare knuckle would be something that Aspinall would look fantastic. I mean, I'm not, as you say, how do the hands hold up and all of that, and we've got this situation with the eyes. But with all that being considered, he would look superb. He looks like a monster. So, it would look superb in bare knuckle, and you could do some BKFC stuff, couldn't you?
I don't know. I don't know if he's going to make that kind of money. Here's what I think with Tom. I think that he realizes that he's getting older. He sees now that boxers, the money that they're making over there, and he thinks that he can get those kind of paydays before he's out. I think that he's like, and I'm not making anything in UFC, and now I've got two dusted up eyes, from finger pokes in the UFC. You don't get that in boxing. I got to move now if I'm going to try to make any of this boxing money. That's really what I think that this is all about for him. And it's smart. You can't, deny a guy who's trying to make for his family. You can't say that, oh, shame on you for not fulfilling your contract because I'm not Dana and the contract ain't with me.
No, absolutely. And the thing is that with all the kind of crossover stuff and and all that kind of boxing, there's a strong possibility for him. Plus, Turkey Al Sheikh, although he was taking the Michael, I suspect. I think he was taking the Michael, but Turkey Al Sheikh did write a post to Eddie Hearn to say, "I'll always take your call," unlike Conor Ben. So,
and it's true. Didn't he say something to the effect of, "Come here, put your head on Daddy's chest, and
he did.
We can talk about it"? Like, he's a cheeky sucker, isn't he?
He is. But Eddie will be thinking, I can get work done here. What he's also said, and I don't know the ins and outs of this, is how's the Conor Ben fight going to take? Because I've still got a promotional contract with him. I didn't think he did. But so that's an extra wrinkle. And Eddie's going, hang on a minute. You've got to talk to me about this. It's all up in the air at the moment. It's great.
Yes, it is. And I for one, am excited to see what happens with this one, Steve, because it's going to get a lot more ugly before it gets any better.
Yeah, yes. And what he's also said is he's going to talk to Francis Ngannou, who would be ideal for that talent agency. But he's also said a lot of other UFC fighters have come to me to say, can I make more money than I have in the UFC with you? So he's whether he does this or not, it's just rolling his tanks back on the lawn a bit.
But what it's also going to do is it's not just going to piss off Dana and the guys there if this happens, and open up this can of worms. What does it say to the managers that are currently working with these UFC fighters if a guy like Eddie Hearn just kind of rolls in, snaps his fingers, and all this extra money starts falling from the sky? What that says is you weren't good enough. You weren't at this level. Why am I doing business with, Malky Kawe? Why am I doing business with, Ali? Why am I doing business with any of these other guys?
Yeah. And it all started with the 15 million, didn't it? Because when somebody breaks the price cap, even if you've not agreed a price cap, when somebody breaks a price cap, other people say, why aren't I earning that? Tom Aspinall himself has come out and said, the difference between mine and his, when somebody breaks that, it has massive repercussions. And that is what we're seeing now.
But here's the thing, is everybody thought that. But then you find out very quickly, oh, wait, this isn't Zuffa's money. He's not getting 15 million from Zuffa. He's getting 15 million from His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, who has been paying boxers for how long? Wasn't a problem when he was paying a boxer who's fighting for a WBC belt. Wasn't a problem when he's paying any of these other guys. But now it's a problem all of a sudden because he's paying a guy to fight for Zuffa.
Yes, but the thing is, you're right, and people like us are cognizant of that. But yes, you can look it up. But the situation is in the narrative that people lump it all together. Like I said last week, they lump Zuffa because you've got the Dana White Zuffa boxing. People don't think of, oh, he's the UFC guy and the WWE guy. They think it's that Zuffa boxing thing, and Eddie Hearn. Definitely matchroom boxing. So people do think, oh, that money's coming from Zuffa. And in a way, it might as well be in the narrative.
That's crazy. It's crazy. I'm interested to see who Dana decides to poach from Eddie next and who Eddie decides to poach from Dana next. This is going to get interesting.